Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 8 session. I request you to please mark your attendance in the chat box. That is very important. Yes, all good. Let me share with you the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So today's topic is all about marketing environment. Today's session is for 3 hours. So initial 2 hours, we will have a discussion on the topic itself, that is marketing environment. And the last 1 hour, we'll try to have a small discussion on the tutorial exercise along with uh, how to proceed with the group assignment. So I hope every one of you has submitted the individual marketing report. So maybe you can we can discuss about some what challenges did you face, and then the next milestone is to submit the group assignment, to finish the group assignment within the deadline, that is the week 11. So we will discuss in the last 1 hour. So initial 2 hours we will have a uh, in-depth discussion on the marketing environment. If I'm talking about the marketing environment, it includes micro and macro environment. But before that, we need to understand what exactly the meaning of marketing environment. So every business is affected by a myriad of factors. In other words, an organization such as, or any of the organization, can never exist or operate in a vacuum. So it is a part of large entity known as the business environment. And that is the topic of discussion, topic for the discussion in today's class. So in broad term, this environment can be divided into two categories. The first one is internal environment. And this category influences the functionality of a particular business itself. That is I'm talking about the internal environment. But the other component is, other category is external environment. So the later one, that is the external environment, it affects the operation of all the businesses, all the firms in the particular sector. So we will have a more discussion on what are the forces related to the internal environment or the external environment. Although these two categories may be different, but both are essential to understand in order to truly see your businesses in the full context. So you have to be acknowledgeable about, as a marketing manager, you have to be acknowledgeable about the business environment in order to be able to track and comprehend how various factors could affect your company. So, okay, this one is a small recap of what we studied in the week 7. It was all about, if you could remember, it was all about promotion. In the broader sense, it was all about integrated marketing communication. One of the important piece of the marketing mix. So what we understood in week 7, we started with understanding the the concept of integrated marketing communication and why it matters. So we have seen the integration of the different communication channel is very, very important nowadays, because the communication as a whole is changing because of the advancement in the technology and other stuffs. And then we understood quickly, we understood the promotion mix. If you could remember that we broadly, we talked about the 5 different promotion mix, including the advertising, sales promotion, personal selling, public relation, and digital or direct marketing or online marketing. And we have seen the positive and negative, the strength and the weaknesses of all the 5 different promotion mix. So that we have covered in our last session. So that was a small recap. So today's discussion is all about the marketing environment. So what are the major learning objectives for today's session? So we'll start with understanding the concept or the definition of marketing environment, what does exactly mean, and what are the forces that describe the environmental forces that affect the company ability to serve its customer. So prime focus of any of the business is to serve the customer profitably, right? So that is the prime objective, to understand the concept itself, the concept of environmental or marketing environment. I can hear some background noise. I request you to, can you put your mic off? In the meantime, I request once again to everyone, please mark your attendance on the chat box. It's very, very important. And I can monitor what time, like how late you enter into the session as well. So if you are late at the beginning half an hour, maybe you will be not granted the full attendance, maybe the half attendance. So it's very important that the moment you enter into the chat box or into this class, virtual classes, you need to put your name and your NIC roll number in the chat box. It's very, very important. Okay, so let me put you on the mute. Yes, mute off. But you can stop me anytime if anything is not clear, and then you can ask one by one your doubt, so that we can have a good discussion. So the learning objective is all about understanding the marketing environment. There are plenty of factors or the forces which are responsible. So we will go through each and every one by one. Okay. So let's start with what is marketing environment. As what we understood, that any of the business, they don't operate in vacuum. You have not only the people or the public around you need to deal with lot of external or internal bodies, right? So the marketing environment is a combination of external and internal factor, and the forces which affects the company ability to establish a relationship and serve its customer. It's all about the customer. Customer has to be at the center. So whatever the decision we are taking out, what is the strategy we are making out, it's keeping all the time the customer at the center of the stage, right? So it's a combination of external and internal factor. Broadly, we'll see that it's external, internal, and the internal factor is related to the firm itself, whereas the external factor is a combination of micro and macro environment. So we'll discuss in the later slide. The famous marketing guru, Philip Kotler, I'm sure you heard the name of Philip Kotler. How he has defined the term marketing environment. According to him, a company's marketing environment consists of the actors and the forces. So we'll talk about both the forces, right, factors, as well as the actors, who are the main bodies who are involved in this marketing environment. So the company's marketing environment consists of the actors and the forces outside of the marketing that affect marketing management ability to build and maintain successful relationship with the target customer. So all the decision, all the forces must be revolving around the target segment or the target customer. So this is the basic definition of the marketing environment. Broadly, there are two broad components of marketing environment. The, the first one is internal environment, and the second one is external environment. I want you to understand here what are the internal what why internal environment. Understanding the internal environment is important, and why at the same time external environment, what kind of influences they have on your business, and why it is important to study those factors as well, right? So what it says that while the internal environment can be controlled, the business has very less or no control over the external environment. And that is very true, right? Internal environment that can have a direct impact, that can directly influence your business operations, right? Functions inside the organization. So you can control, you have a better control on those factors, or the factors, right? I'm talking about the internal one. But what about the external one? The external world, like, do you have a control over your competitors' decision? No. Do you have a control about control over the government policies, legal policy of particular co- country? So we'll see that those combination of all the factors of which includes an internal, external. But what is important here? You need to keep in mind that internal factors or internal environment, you can control it, but the external environment you can't control. I mean, the businesses cannot have a much more control, or almost there is no control on the external environment, right? So the internal environment of the business includes all the forces and factors inside the organization which affects its marketing operation. And these components can be grouped under the five broad ends. And what those five ends stands for: man, money, machinery, material, and markets. Okay, let's take one example of mm, okay, let's take an example of Qantas Airlines in Australia, and try to look at the factors in the internal environment. So these are mainly related to the man, money, machinery, material, and market. So who are the main men who are serving in the airlines industry? They recruit, yeah, they have a top management team, right? C-level executive, middle level managers, and then they have cargo people, right? They have people who serve the cargo services, and they have the pilots, and they have cruise member, right? So all these are the people who actually serve to the customer. What about the money? Money is like all the investment, in terms of they have the group of shareholders who invest in the company, right? In the Qantas Airlines. What about the machinery? Machinery involves itself the big aeroplanes, right? The big one. And also it includes the runways and highways where they get connected through the airport to the some other destination. So that machinery, that will be a part of machinery. What about the materials? Mm, okay, the maybe the air fuel will be a kind of will be a part of materials. And if any of the airlines, if they are also involved in manufacturing the airlines, right, making of manufacturing or building of the airlines, then there might be a kind of procurement of the aluminiums or the other materials, plastics and fibers and all, right? So those will be a part of the materials. And what are the markets for the Qantas Airlines? They do have the domestic internal market, like the domestic market, as well as the international or global market. So what we were trying to understand using these five M's, we were trying to understand the internal environment of a business, right? Then, and the second component is external environment, which consists of which consists of the factor of the forces which are external to the business, on which the marketers has little or no control. The external environment is of two types: macro and micro. Okay, I have two different videos here, but probably I will not run both the videos. But yes, one video is on Walmart, how they succeed in understanding the environment itself, right? External and external or internal environments. Whereas we have another case of Starbucks. which failed in Australia. And one of the reasons why the Starbucks they failed in Australia is they failed to understand the business environment in Australia. They were like Starbucks is like primarily from the US, right? US multinational. So they failed in the Australian market because they failed to capture the insight what customer needs or what attitude, what values, what beliefs they have. So they failed somehow to understand the importance of the marketing or business environment. That's the reason they failed in Australia. So probably I would like to play one video for 3 or 4 minutes, and let's try to capture what conversation is going on, why Starbucks failed in Australia.
Too rapidly. And Starbucks has coffee shops all over the world. There are more than 28,000 locations in 76 markets, from Shanghai to Guantanamo Bay. And in China, a new Starbucks location opens up every 15 hours. But there is one continent that seems uninterested in the hype over the Seattle-based coffee chain. And that continent is Australia. It's proven to be one of the toughest markets in the world to break into. So tough, in fact, that Starbucks closed more than 2/3 of its stores on the continent back in 2008. So what went so wrong with Starbucks in Australia? To answer that, let's go back to July of 2000, when Starbucks opened its first Australian shop in Sydney. From there, it expanded fast. By 2008, Starbucks had 87 stores across the continent.
I think one of the problems for Starbucks, and it's true for a lot of businesses that have been successful in one country, is that they thought that their business model could just roll out to a different environment and there was no need for them to adjust.
But that was the problem. It tried to grow the empire too fast. Starbucks rapidly opened up multiple locations instead of slowly integrating them into the Australian market. When they launched too rapidly and didn't give the Australian consumer an opportunity to really develop an appetite for the Starbucks brand. They also moved into regional areas, into outer suburbs of major cities. And so for the Australian consumer, it was almost like it was too available for them. And so there wasn't this point of difference, this want, this need for Starbucks, and it wasn't an organic growth, which is what we very much saw in the US. In its first 7 years in Australia, Starbucks accumulated $105 million in losses. By 2007, Starbucks Australia was hanging on by a thread, taking big loans from the US, totaling up to $54 million. And in 2008, Starbucks announced it was shutting down 61 stores. But of course, 2008 was a difficult time for businesses due to the financial crisis. Along with the Australia closures, Starbucks also closed 600 underperforming American stores. But even still, such a retreat in Australia was embarrassing for the brand. When you're shutting down 75 stores, for the Australian consumer, when they did leave the market, or at least a large number of their stores were shut down, they didn't really care. It's partly because Australians are spoiled for choice when it comes to coffee. Australia's coffee market is one of the biggest in the world. The industry is expected to hit more than $6 billion in total revenue in 2018. They've been immersed in nuances of cafe culture since the mid-1900s, when Italian and Greek immigrants began traveling to the country. The immigrants introduced Australians to espresso. By the 1980s, Australians were fully engulfed in cafe culture. They've also grown accustomed to specialty menu items, like a flat white or an Australian macchiato.
So cafes in Australia were born out of like the Italian culture of meeting a friend and knowing your local barista, and it being kind of like a local meeting place where everyone knew each other, and that coffee was just a part of that. And then Starbucks came in with what is more of an American style like coffee culture, which is essentially just like coffee is a product, coffee is a commodity, coffee is like perk me up in the morning. It's caffeination.
Starbucks had a basic menu and offered more sugary drinks, which most Australians didn't like.
In Australia, where local tastes are different, so we don't really want a coffee that's hundreds of ounces with lots of sugar in it. We want something a bit more sophisticated.
Plus, Starbucks charged more than local cafes. So Australians instead opted to pay less for coffee they liked from a local barista they trusted.
And so when you come in with this big, like, hey, we're going to open all these cafes and they're all going to be to-go focused, it just was the complete wrong market for what the Australian was used to.
But there's one American coffee company that's thriving in Australia. Founded in Chicago and now based in Australia, Gloria Jeans got the traction in Australia that Starbucks couldn't. Gloria Jeans has more than 400 Australian locations and serves more than 35 million consumers in Australia each year. So what is Gloria Jeans doing in Australia that Starbucks isn't? Well, the company attributes its success to two Australians who franchised the business in their home country. Shops started to show up in Australia in 1996. Fast forward to today, the company has a presence in every Australian state. The reason? Its menu. The chain offers a wide variety of espresso drinks and specialty coffee. Failing to adapt its menu to Australians' coffee culture proved to be a mistake for Starbucks. And the company faces another challenge later this year, Italy. Starbucks is opening its first store in Milan in late 2018. Home of the espresso, Italy is rich in cafe culture. But according to Starbucks, it's not going to make the same mistakes that it did in Australia. The company...
So you can watch the rest of the videos later on. So I think, let me go through the slides. So what was important here? In the videos, did you try to analyze what went wrong with the company, Starbucks? So broadly, you can say that the company, they failed to analyze the true business environment in Australia, right? Even some of the competitors, like he never noticed about the pricing issue, right? The competitors, they were offering the prices, means low prices they were offering. The coffee, they were offering low prices. So that means how the business operates in true sense in Australia, the Starbucks, they fail to capture that insight. So I'm talking about the environment. So we'll try to relate some of the aspects from the marketing environment topic, which we are trying to understand today. Although 2008 subprime crisis in the US, that was also responsible to shut down 2/3 of the shops in Australia. But overall, the company has not done the proper homework, you can say. That's the reason. And what exactly the homework? Homework is to understand the proper business culture, proper business environment in a particular country or in the particular economy where the customers are from the diversified religious group or ethnic group and all right. So we'll see that. So the external environment constitute of the forces which the company has no control over, right? And it is the external environment is divided into two broad types. One is micro and second one is macro. So what we understood just now, like a small recap, we try to understand, we have gone through the basic definition of marketing environment, and then the major components are divided into internal and external. And now external environment has two broad subdivision. One is micro environment and the second one is macro environment. So micro, the forces close to the organization that affects its ability to serve its customers. So the micro, MI, these are the forces which are very, very close to the organization. That means, again, the micro, talking about the first one, the micro environment, the company has a control to some extent. The company has the control over these factors. Whereas, what is the macro environment? The large societal forces, external forces that affects the whole micro environment. So in the case of macro environment, that is MA, so macro environments, the forces, they equally affect all the firms within that particular segment or within that particular industry. So micro environment is responsible for your own business, whereas the macro environment is responsible for all the firms in the same particular segment or particular industry. So now what we will do, we will go through, first we will go through the micro environment. We have 6 major forces in micro environment. And then after the break, in the second half, we will go through the macro environment, where again we have 6 another factors or the forces which are responsible, which are very important to study. So let's start with the micro environment first, MICRO. As I said, there are 6 major factors in the micro environment. So who are those? The company itself, right? Then suppliers, intermediaries. We already understood the role of intermediaries. Competitors, publics, I'm talking about the general public, we'll see that, and the customer is also a part of micro environment. So these parties, they are very, these actors, they are very close to your company operation and activities, and they could have a direct or indirect very close impact on your firm performance, right? So let's go through each and every factor one by one, and just let me know if anything is not clear to you. Just stop me and let's go like have a kind of discussion. The first one is the company itself. The company information is shared within the internal groups. So why you think, why this factor is important to understand? Why? Because all the departments, they share the responsibility for understanding the customer needs and values. We talked about the customer values. That is very, very important. That is the ultimate game of value delivery process or value chain process. We have seen, we understood that. So the ultimate game is to create, enhance more and more customer values. And for that, it's not only one department, as like marketing department is not only the responsible for creating those values. It's the proper coordination, communication between all the departments, all the different divisions, all the different functional entities, right? All the communication has to be, means all the department, all those inside the firm, a particular firm, all these departments or the entities are equally responsible for understanding the customer needs, wants, and desire, and accordingly customizing their product and services. Right. So that's why these actors do play in terms of understanding the micro environment of the firm. So these factors actually they resides inside the firm itself. So the top management, including all the C-level executives, chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief marketing, nowadays CFO, that is chief marketing officer, chief procurement officer, or logistics or information officer. So you have the top management team. Then under that you have the different managers over in the R&D managers, operation or purchasing, procurement, finance, accounting, HR, resourcing, people management. So you have the managerial levels, and then we have the people who actually work in the other under those middle level managers. So everybody is responsible for understanding what customer needs and how can be value, how the value can be created for the customer. I think we understood the role of internal marketing. If you could remember, it's very, very important, where internal marketing, we have seen especially in the case of service industry, where the internal marketing is very, very important. So everyone inside the organization is responsible for, they have to be proactively take part in terms of understanding the customer, what they want, and what accordingly customize the firm product and services that can suit that particular customer. So the first one is the company itself. In the micro environment, the second factor is supplier. I think we can say the suppliers are a kind of it's a kind of collaborator, or these are like the close entity to the firm, right? Because the businesses of the firm is totally dependent on the reliability of the supplier, right? If you have a suppliers which has a long-term relationship, I think that is always better to have a like long-term reliable relationship with the supplier, because they are consistent and they are sending you the raw materials or maybe the finished product and all to your retail shop. So they are responsible for the consistent delivery of the product and services. So suppliers is going to play a very, very important role in the micro environment. they have a direct impact on your business activities in the performance of your business activity. So the suppliers are an important link to the organization overall customer delivery, value delivery process. We understood the value delivery process. If we could remember, the value delivery process or system consists of creating the values, creating, crafting, and then communicating and delivering those values to the end customer. So that is all about the value delivery system. So the marketing managers must watch for supply availability, shortage or the delays or the price trend of the suppliers. Think about if you have very few suppliers, and think about on the other side if you have plenty of suppliers. So what do you think? Which one will be in the more like which supplier can influence your business activity to a great extent? So it means if there are very few suppliers, or if there is a monopoly of the supplier, that means you are not in a good situation. The suppliers can greatly influence in terms of pricing, or they can have a long term negotiation and all. So they can have a great influence. But if in the case of you have multiple suppliers, then you are in a strong position as a business, right? So all of the above events can damage the value delivery to the customer and ultimately influence the satisfaction in the long run. So rising the supply cost may force price increase. That is very true. If your supplier is like forcing, you're not able to properly negotiate with your suppliers, maybe they will raise the price, and ultimately what will happen, the unit cost of production will go up. So finally you have to raise your prices, right? And that will again lead to the low gain in the market share. So all these are like playing very critical role in your business activities. So how can we conclude about this supplier as a factor of the force? If a supplier of a particular product is the largest or even the only one, they are certainly going to have a big influences on this how successful your business is. So the greater influences if they are very few, but less influences if they are many. So suppliers are extremely important factors as the key link to the value delivery process. We understood that they ensure that your business has the necessary resources in terms of maybe raw material, semi-finished product, or the finished product, whatever categories. So they ensure that you have you are keep going, your businesses keep going, and they are essential determinants in terms of price increase or decrease. So they are kind of external influencer. Sometimes they can lead to your price increase or decrease decision, right? They can play an active role in that decision. So the suppliers include all the parties which provide the resources needed to the organization. So that is the second factors in the micro environment. The third one is we'll talk about marketing intermediaries. Intermediaries we have already covered as a very important in the place. We understood in the placement, right? One of the important marketing piece we studied about the role of intermediaries. We have seen the first level, second level, or third level, and so on, different level of channel or distribution, right? We have seen that what are the role and responsibility intermediaries plays, right, in the business, right? So let's go through the third one. Marketing intermediaries. Who are those? Maybe the resellers, brokerages who buy it and resell it to the end customer, who buy it from company and act as a brokerages or the agent in between, right? Between the company and consumer. The reseller, there is a warehouse, the distribution firms itself who stocks and move the goods from location, their own location warehouse to the retail shop. So some of the marketing service agencies like research agencies, advertising and all, and the financial intermediaries. So these are the intermediaries who plays very important role in your business activities. So the marketing intermediaries include the parties involved in distributing the product or services of the organization, right? They are mainly involved in the distribution of your product and services. So let's go through like how the, like, take the example of reseller, right, as a marketing intermediaries. So if you decide to sell your product via the third party like reseller or the middleman, such as the wholesaler or the retailer, we have seen the different levels of distribution channel, like direct marketing, then we have indirect marketing where channel level 1, channel level 2, 3, and so on. So if you have decided to include some of the middleman or some of the agents or the wholesaler or the retailer in the business activities, then the success of your marketing is going to be highly dependent on them. Can you imagine, like, if your supplier is not reliable, uh, not able to fill the rack in your store, retail shop at the proper time, how much business you are going to lose, right? And this is the way that your competitor can get more and more advantage if they have more reliable supply chain or distribution channel, right? Why Walmart is known as the king of logistics or king of supply chain? Because they have very robust supply chain, the value chain. They have customized it so nicely, so properly integrated with the high technology, security, and everything. They are able to reduce the overall cost of the sourcing. So that means it's going to affect your businesses as individual businesses, your suppliers. So if let's say even the certain retail seller has a strong reputation, and think about sometimes what happens, like some of your retailer, they have a very good brand name, right? So it means those advantages is going to pass on your product as well, right? So as a link between you and the customer, intermediaries are important in the terms of promotion activities, sales, distribution, marketing, and financial mediation. So resellers, they are very important. They play this sort of role, like promoting your product and services by keeping in their own self and giving the timely kind of sales promotion activities. We have seen that. And also the distribution, sometimes creating more awareness in terms of marketing and financial mediation. The resellers, we have seen uh, the moment the firm they include some sort of intermediaries, we have seen the chances of conflict, right? The channel conflict. We have seen the horizontal conflict between the same channel members, whereas we have seen the conflict of in the horizontal, the vertical conflict between the different level of members. So we have seen that. So the it's a role of resellers or intermediaries. Sometimes they play active role in terms of the resolution of the conflict. So it's a kind of mediation. So the mediation is more it's a less costlier in compared to our arbitrage, or in compared to other techniques to resolve the conflict between the members. So they play this sort of role. So they have the direct or indirect role in your business activities, and they have that could have a great impact on your performance of the firm. So that is the role of intermediaries. I hope everything is clear. I'm taking more and more examples, and I'm trying to be a bit slow so that you can understand and grasp it correctly. So till now we have covered the company, suppliers, and intermediaries. 3-1. The remaining three factors are competitors, general publics, and customer. So let's go through the fourth one, competitors. Think about why competitors, why they influence your business activities, what role, what kind of role they play in terms of how can they directly or indirectly influence your company performance. So think about the competitors. What is the overall idea of while thinking about the competition? You're trying to increase the value of your firm, whereas you are trying to decrease the value of the competitor's offer to the customer. That means we heard the term of the value creation or value. What is the customer value? So idea is you should offer, as a firm, you should offer, you try to always you will try to increase the customer value, whereas the the competitor has to, means the customer should perceive that your offering has a greater value in compared to the customers, like in compared to your competitors who are also providing the similar sort of product and services. So unless until if you're not providing the higher value, why the customer will come and buy your product and services? So that is the crux here. Like you need to understand that what are the values your competitors are offering, what value additions they have, what warranty, guarantee, and what sort of additional things, additional items, or additional offerings they have, which you are not offering. So it's very important to look at the benchmarking firm in your particular industry. You might have heard the term benchmarking, like the who is the actual standard, the firm which sets the standard in particular industry, that is the benchmarking firm. So always you need to find out like who are the benchmarking firms in your industry, particular industry, and then try to match your service or the product quality or service standard with those benchmarking firms. Then only you will be able to grab certain percentage of market share in that particular market or in that particular segment, right? So it's important to have. I'm not sure, like uh, we have advanced marketing management where we go in detail regarding competition or competitive analysis, where we have Porter's 5 force model, which helps us to analyze the company, your firm specific position, and the benchmarking firm position or the competitor position in the market. So there are different tools available in the marketing, which helps us to understand your competitive position in particular market. So it's important to understand the role of competitors, or the offerings of the competitors, so that you can match, either you can match it or you can exceed also, right? It's a kind of wow situation. The customer will be very satisfied if you are exceeding their expectation. So idea is to understand their offerings, the offerings of the competitors, and accordingly match to your firm offerings, and then accordingly take the decision regarding how to set the prices, or set the standards, or set the design and everything. So let's have some more factors in the competitors. So logically, every business that sells the same or similar kind of product as you do is a competition, right? Is a competitor in the same market. So their sales and marketing techniques matters to you a lot. So it is also suggesting, as a marketing manager of a firm, you need to keep on supervising. You need to keep on eyes on how your what marketing tactics, or what marketing strategy your competitors, or marketing strategy or the sales strategy of your competitors, how they are functioning, right? You need to have a proper eye on that. And sometimes you try to match, you try to align your activities with some of your competitors who are really performing very good in that particular market. So you need to answer various questions, such as how their product and their price affects yours, and how can make use of that in order to gain an edge over them. So it's all about creating a competitive advantage. Means how you can improve the standards of your product and offerings compared to your competitors, and how, where you will set the prices. If you will price the same as previous, or you will charge more compared to competitors. So you need to have a proper consideration of the competitors position and the number of competitors in the market. All together you need to take into the consideration before making a move, because they have the impact, directly or indirectly, they impact your business activities and performance in terms of gaining the market share. So the major factors that matters in this case are desired level of competition. You need to understand, as a marketing manager, what is the desire, what is the current level of competition in that particular market, and what is the desired level of competition, what product form of competition, to what extent, like you are in terms of product line, in terms of product standard, quality standards, where you set your standards, and what in terms of brand, what sort of competition in terms of brand positioning, is the brand positioning of your product and services are better than competitors, or are you trying to chase, or are you trying to set the standard as per your uh, competitor positioning. So all these factors are important while considering the micro environment. So still we are on the micro environment, micro level, which has the direct influence on your business activities. The remaining 2 hours, publics or general public and customer. So I will finish this tomorrow, and then we will have some sort of, we'll take some sort of discussion. We'll open that discussion forum so that we can interact, and where I will request you guys to add, come up with some more examples or contradict some of the things which I have stated. Try to have some sort of discussion in a very proactive manner, right? Okay. So the remaining two are general public and customers. Who are the general public? Think about who are the general public I'm talking about. Are they buying, are they a person who are buying your product? No. Who are the general public? Is it the environment, the people in the surrounding environment where you operate your business? Think about those lines. Is it a public regarding a kind of NGOs, social organization, enterprises, or is it a kind of government bodies? So think about who are the public, general public I'm talking about, and who can have an influence on your business activities, right? So let's go through the fifth one, that is public or general public. Oh, okay. It's a long list of financial public, media public, government, citizen action, local public, regional public, general public, or internal public. It's a lot, big group of people, right? I'm talking about. So publics are any group that has an actual or potential interest in or impact on the organization activities to achieve its objective. So these publics are very important. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore their expectation. These are the people who are always there. If you're doing good, think about a good corporate citizen role. If you're playing a very good role, a citizen role in particular country or in particular economy, these publics will be always there to support you. But if you are not, your business activities is damaging their ecosystem, ecological standards, or maybe the social and environmental performance are hampering and all, these publics will be there to stop you, right? So the role, we have a concept of, shareholders versus stakeholders. If you could remember, shareholders who has the direct interest in you, right? Those who are pouring money, investment in your firm. So those are the shareholders. But the stakeholders, nowadays we are talking about a concept of, the broader concept is stakeholders. And shareholders is again a part of a broader stakeholders. But in this broader stakeholders, you have your shareholders, you have company top executive management employees, and then you have customer, you have government. So the stakeholders has a direct or indirect role in your business form or business activities. They have the direct or indirect influences, and we have seen the internal stakeholders and external, the role of external stakeholders. So talking about the public, they have a they have an interest in your business activities. You see on it is what is there. Are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation? Yes, I'm sure. So shareholder power. Yes, I do agree with that. Shareholders, they exhibit maximum power because they have the direct interest. They are the people who are invested money in your firm. So they are the major decision makers, right? There is no doubt on that. But nowadays, stakeholders does play very important role. And talking about the stakeholders, it includes all the publics, including the general public, which I'm talking about here. Here, they play important role in your activities, business activities. So we can conclude with this one. Talking about the general public, Of course, every business organization has its best interest to appease to the general public. Every steps that you take needs to be viewed from their perspective as well, right? It is extremely important how your action affect their others who are living in your surrounding, because their opinion can be the one thing that either pushes you towards success or pull you down from the success, right? So the general public is very important in terms of giving the opinion, to what extent they think that your business activities are on the meeting the expectation of the local community or local region or local economy. So their opinion is very, very important, and you need to align your objective with their objective. So you can't go stand alone, right? You need to properly integrate their expectation, their opinion, and you need to formulate your strategy based on taking into their opinion into the consideration as well, right? So the general public also includes the media people, public relation activities of parties, the environmental pollution or social standard agencies and all. So it's very, very important to understand the role general public play in terms of micro environment. And finally we have customer. What do you think? Does customer play any role in your business activity? Yes, because of the customer you are able to make the profit. So ultimate goal of marketing is to manage the customer, right? Create the values for the customer, satisfy the needs and wants of the customer profitably, right? So customer is a core of a business, right? Centrist is of any business activity. So let's go through the sixth factor in the micro environment. Why it is important to understand this, like marketing environment. You have okay, in the next week we have in the tutorial one of the company like Ford Ranger. You will be try to analyze this micro environment and the macro environment factor of that particular company. So it's very important, and even in the part of when you will proceed with working on the group assignment, group work, right? Situational analysis report in a group, some of the sections will be predominantly they will asking for, and they will ask for the analyzing the micro and macro environment of, or the total marketing environment of your particular business. So it's very important. It's very important. So let's go through the sixth factor, customer. Okay, here it goes. We broadly know that broadly we have three types of three types of markets, like consumer market, that is also known as C2B, consumer to business. Then we have business to business market, and the third one is government market. So broadly, we know there are three different types of customers. So whenever we talk about customer, don't only think about it's a B2B or retail shop where we go and consume the product or we buy the product. We broadly we talk about the customer in the B2B as well as the government. Because the government also, like various times, like they need to buy for their own security, safety, and other healthcare and other stuffs for the economy. So they are also play important role in terms of influencing your. Think about if your business is like catering only to the government market, so they might have a major influence on your business activities. But suppose I'm only dealing with my firm is only dealing with business to business market, so again that has influence on my business activities. And consumer to consumer market, we know that it's a kind of retail shop where we go and buy. So they absolutely, like obviously they have influences on our business activities. So let's go through the customer, what it says. The kind of customer base that your company attracts. What are the possible customer base you can attract? Either you can cater B2C market, that is business to consumer. Second option is B2B, business to business, or third one is government market. So whatever kind of customer base you are serving, so the kind of customer base that your firm attracts or serve, as well as the response reasoning behind purchasing your product, are going to highly affect the way you create the marketing campaign. So your campaigning of or the awareness or the promotion or the distribution channel, everything will be categorized for the choice of the customer base. Are you dealing in the B2C market, B2B market, or the government market? So your customer can be a B2B, B2C, or we have government market, and again we have nowadays the global market as well, right? You can add international market as well, or the regional market as well, right? So what are the important factors related to the customer? It's the stability of the demand. As a marketeer, you need to keep an eye on the is the demand is like over full demand, is like latent demand, is it a kind of half filled, or is it like kind of upcoming demand? So we have seen that eight different stages of demand. So you need to keep an eye on the relative level of the demand, stability of the demand. Is the your product firm's product services has a stable demand, or this demand is going down, or it's going to up? So you need to be careful in that one, because the customer, if they are depend like not demanding your product and services, that means your business is no more going to be profitable, right? The second one is prospect of the sales growth. So depending on the demand, more customer buying, more sales growth. Or sometimes the sales growth is like kind of the growth in terms of how in compared to competitors, what is your how much percentage of gain in terms of market share you are having. So that is again important aspect. Relative profitability, sometimes you need to think about. We have seen in terms of in terms of setting the prices, either you can have a kind of scheming objective, or maybe the market share, gaining market share objective, where you try to set lower prices at the beginning, where in the scheming you try to set the higher prices at the beginning. So it depends on the kind of profitability percentage, how much you are looking in terms of return on marketing or return on investment. So you need to keep those in mind. And the intensity of competition is again important here, because that's how, if your competitors is gaining more and more, relatively your chances of gaining the market share will be lesser, right? So the customer is again very important factor, which has influences on your business activity in the context of micro environment. Keep in mind, I'm talking about micro, smaller level of environment, the factors. And again, very important, these 6 factors, you can have a little bit control. You can have a little bit, you can control, you can play with your tactics, you can play with your the strategy. You can think about setting you can have a kind of planning changes in your planning and activities, your vision, mission statement. You can little bit play, and so that these actors can be can have a kind of you can have a kind of certain extent of controlling over these actors, right? Have seen in what as a whole, all these factors is also known as okay, what is important here, the micro component of the environment is also known as the task environment. So in order to accomplish all your functions, all your tasks, right, these are the actors who those play a major role in order to accomplish your task or the business activities. So these are the task factors. These 6 factors are the task factors. So the micro environment includes the task factor. So that is important here. So I think I've covered the half part of today's session, that is micro environment. A small recap, then we will have a discussion on that one, then we'll proceed with the second half. So we started with the understanding the marketing environment. Important to understand the marketing environment, because you as a business, you are not operating in a vacuum. Always there are competitors around, there are general publics around, there are suppliers, mediators, distribution channels, intermediaries, customers, all are around your business activities. So understanding the whole marketing environment is very important as a marketeer. And then we understood that Broadly, it is the two broad components. It's one is internal environment, and the second one is external environment. In the internal environment, mainly you can judge it or can perceive using the 5 M's: the money, man or the people, machinery, materials, and the markets. Accordingly, you take the decision. You can understand the internal environment of the business activities. Whereas the external environment, where you have almost no control, we haven't covered this one, the external environment, which will be covered in the later half. So it broadly includes two different types, micro and macro. And the micro environment, the forces that are close to the organization that affects the ability to serve its customer. We have seen the role of intermediaries, general public, competitors, customers, even the company management. So all together in the micro environment. The second half is all about the macro environment, the larger societal forces that affects the whole micro environment. So the micro factors will influence only your particular business, whereas the macro factor will influence in the same way all the firms in particular segments or particular industry. So that we will cover in the later half. So now it's time to have a small discussion. If anything is not clear or you wanted to add anything, please go ahead with that. Once again, let me repeat, if you have not marked your attendance in the chat box, please do that. Now I'm putting, okay, you can unmute it and go ahead with the discussion. Please ask. I will be happy to answer any of the questions. Please ask. Hello, are you there?
We okay. Well, I don't have any question. I'm not sure about the other.
Okay.
Same here. It's very clear, so it seems I can't seem to come up with any questions regarding.
Okay, just tell me, like, okay,
Yeah.
Can you have some sort of thing like why? I mean, like, external environment is like why internal environment is like what do you think? Which environment will be more important? Like, is it like internal environment or external environment? Which we haven't talked now till now, but is it? Do you think that the internal understanding the internal environment or the micro environment is relatively more important compared to the broader or external macro environment?
In my view, yeah, I think it's better to look within your company first, rather than putting all your focus on the outside world. I think it's almost like a life lesson, but yeah.
Okay,
On the
it makes sense, right?
yeah.
I'm sure, like you guys have heard about the term. We have a very good tool. It's a very basic tool in the marketing that is known as SWOT. Did you heard about the SWOT analysis? SWOT.
Yes.
Strength,
Strengths,
weakness,
weaknesses,
yes, opportunity and threat. So
Yeah.
we have a very good tool, a marketing tool known as the SWOT analysis. We will do in the group assignment work the SWOT analysis. So the strength and weaknesses, if you're doing the internal analysis, internal environment analysis, or the micro level of analysis, just now which we have covered, it helps you to understand what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of your firm, isn't it? Think about it.
Yeah, it does.
Think about the kind of analysis till now we did at the micro level, micro environment analysis we have seen or we studied. Don't you think that it gives you the opportunity to understand what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses your firm has? And in the SWOT analysis, we have two more factors: opportunity and threat. In order to understand what opportunities you have, and in order to understand what the threat you have, we need to look at the bigger external factor, that is macro environment, which I have not covered. But keep in mind, the SWOT analysis or the SWOT tool is the proper tool which helps us to understand the like marketing environment. It's a kind of practical tool. All good now?
Yeah, all good. Thanks.
Let me ask you like some of the, let's see if any question which I have not covered or any aspects which I have not covered, I will ask you guys to provide or interact on those. Okay, let's talk about, like, we have seen to little bit Starbucks, why they failed in Australia. Uh, can some of could like somebody can explain some of the key factors, or did you able to relate it today's session learning outcomes with the videos 3 or 4 minutes why Starbucks they failed when they entered to the in Australia, in the Australian market? Are you able to relate some of the factors? Any one of you?
Okay, so just like they said in the video, they didn't understand their customers first, because I think Starbucks was already too overconfident with their brand. They thought of establishing everywhere, regardless of who the customers is, which was their mistake.
I think rightly pointed out. See, just now we understood the term of micro level factors, and we have seen customer is very important, right? And the Starbucks they fail to understand the attitude. I mean, they were saying that it's Italian style, right? Italian culture, but they Australian they wanted something related to close to their own standards or their own beliefs and attitude and lifestyle. So I think they failed. Yeah, that is very good point you raised out. Like we have seen the customer. We talked about the 6 factors, and out of that, one factor was in the micro. It was customer not meeting the expectation of the customer. Very good. What about the competitors? Did they talk about the competitors? Think yes.
Yes, they talked about Gloria Jean and how they were able to do their research rather
Exactly.
than the
Exactly.
Starbucks.
Even the US firm, the other firm, they are operating very successfully in this Australian market because, and even they were able to lower down the cost, the competitors. But the Starbucks, they were trying to maintain the standards as well as the premium pricing and all. That is very important to understand. So we have seen the role of, yes, competitors as well, right? We haven't there were less factor regarding the intermediaries. They go through the franchisee model and all. Maybe a little bit you need to understand more about those to understand the role of intermediaries, the suppliers and all, and the company. So at least you have, okay, where is that? Let me share that. This one. Yeah, the PPT, yes, PowerPoint presentation. So we have seen that how the Starbucks, they failed in understanding the customers and the role of competitors. So some of the factors you see, you are able to relate with the videos. I'm happy that if you are able to relate uh, these factors, that is really good. They haven't talked much about the suppliers because think about the company like big retail shops. They have much more role of their suppliers because you know the business of any retailers, it depends on the suppliers continuous supplying of the goods and services at the right time, at the right place, and at the right cost. You remember the 3 things are very important in the distribution. So shipping the goods at the right time, at the right place, and at the right cost, that is very important. General public, there was like no much in the Starbucks case, there was no much uh, anything bad about the firm position in terms of, from the general public opinion, it was not really critical point were there in the videos, and the company itself was like, we know that. Okay, so sometimes I'm really surprised, like why only few of you are like interacting. What about the others? Like Where is this guy? Let me see. Rafael, are you there? Rafael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, sir.
Okay, is there any doubt?
No, everything seems clear.
Okay, and where is Frank? Jew Frank, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, is there any doubt?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, what about Tina? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jew, oh, okay. We'll talk about, in the second half now, we'll talk about the broader macro environment, and then the last hour we'll discuss about the what challenges did you face in terms of submitting your individual assignment, marketing assignment, and how to proceed with the group assignment that we will cover. I hope there is no need to have any break now. So I will give you the small break after completing this one. So let's go through the second half of today's session. So go back here. I'm trying to link it like from where we started. So we started the marketing environment, broader components, internal and external. And in the external environment, we have two types. One is micro and second one is macro. Till now we have covered the micro environment, which the company has a control to a certain extent. But now we will discuss about broader external environment that is known as macro environment, which has there is like the company has no control over those factors. So the macro environment, MACRO, macro environment is known as also known as broad environment, broad external environment. So similarly, as a micro environment, we have seen 6 factors. In the macro environment, the broad environment, we do have 6 factors. And what are those? Demographic, economic, natural, technological, political, legal, and social culture. You see, there are 6 broad factors. An idea is to understand all these factors in detail. That we will do in this second half. Might be you have heard about pestle analysis, PESTEL, pestle analysis, or the PEST analysis. Sometimes it's a kind of acronyms for all these factors. Or maybe you can see at the bottom in this slide, it is somewhere it was written D-step model. Are you able to see that? D-step model. So it's a kind of acronym you can remember in short. D-step model. So D stands for demographic, E stands for economic, S stands for social culture, T stands for technological factor, E stands for economic, and P stands for political legal. Idea is to understand all these factors in a greater detail. So whenever we talk about political and legal, both aspects it will cover. The same way, whenever we'll talk about the cultural, it's a social culture, so together. So we'll see that. So let's start with the first one, demographic factor, right? Demographic is related to, right, public demographic factors. Like we have seen several times the role, different demographic factors which influences the consumer buying behavior is, you know, education level, income level, lots of factors we have seen, right, as a demographic factor. So let's go through that one by one. So let's start with demographic environment, right? Okay. Demography as such is a study of human population in terms of size, density, diversity, population, age, gender, family size, structure, race, occupation, education level, and other statistics. So marketeers keep close track of demographic trend and the developments. Why it is important to understand the demographic environment? Because these are dynamic in nature, right? They keep on changing. Let's see some of the factors, some of the trends, like aging population. The more and more aged people in the economy. All the developed economy, if you could remember, they have the issue of the aging population, right? And no, sometimes it is an opportunity as well, right? If I could remember the Asian economy, they are claiming that they have more young population, right? Whereas all the developed economy like US, European, and even Australian do have around 40 to 40 or 45% of aging population. But this is an opportunity as well, right? If you have the aging population, that means your economy will be more towards service economy, right? Because the aged people, they need to have access of more and more services, right? In terms of healthcare, finance, insurance, securities, and all right. So somehow you need to understand as a marketeer that in which economy you are operating or doing your business, or in which market you are planning to enter. Is it an Asian market where you have the healthcare products and the stuff, but you are entering to the Asian market? Probably you have less chance to grab more markets here. But if you have the healthcare product and all, maybe the right sort of economy or the target segment will be the economy where the aging population is high. So this demographic trend is important to understand. Otherwise, although you will put lots of efforts, but idea is to gain more and more market share, ultimately more and more profits, meeting their expectation profitably. Keep that in mind. So growing ethnic diversity. Yeah, Australia is a very good example of growing ethnic diversity. Around 48 countries people they reside, or more than that, I think so. You just have a look on the Macquarie University, what I came to know that around 48 countries, students they are studying there. It's a growing ethnic diversity. And think about as the challenges, you do have a challenges as a marketer. If you are trying to cater one size fit for all, no, it's not going to work, isn't it? So you need to be very, very careful in terms of understanding particular ethnic diversity of the people, and accordingly you have to cater your product and services. You need to customize to a certain extent. Changing family and household structure. Why it is important? Again, if you go to some of the Asian economy like China or India, still they believe in the joint family. You have a big family with so many 3 and 4 siblings, the cousin and all stay together. It's a joint family decision for purchasing a particular items, right? But what about the Western economy? Even in Australia, it's a nuclear family, right? Where wife and husband's only 2, without mother and without the parental support. What about Australia? I think there are certain trend we have seen in Australia. It's a growing single parent concept is coming up in Australia. We'll talk about in the later slides. It's beautifully cover the changing family and household structure. It's important to understand. Geographic population shift. What do you think? Did you notice any sort of population shift I'm talking about geographically? People are moving from, yes, even in Australia, you can see that nowadays, and what I heard from from outside world is like some certain territory or certain states in Australia, they promote more and more PR compared to other states. Why? Because, for example, the New South Wales is overpopulated, right? So the Australian government, they wanted to have more and more population shift towards certain different states like Tasmania and others, right? So it's a population shift. I also came to know that the moment the US is like overfilled, the population, all the major offices, they shifted towards the Canada. So it's a kind of geographical population shift. It happens. You need to take care of. This gives opportunities as well, right? Because you are able to identify, you will be able to identify the new market. Maybe you will stop with your product and services in the existing market and will think about moving towards the new market, capturing some of the market share from the new market. Higher education, higher level of education. Education is very, very important. That's why certain economy like Australia is able to handle this current situation of coronavirus, right? Because people are educated over here. But think about some of the economy, like some of the country where the education level is not high. It's very difficult. People are not really understanding what kind of precaution in terms of social distancing is important. They are not able to understand that. It matters. It matters. The higher level of education always matters. And so, of course, the developed economy, they have the higher level of education. People are professionally, like people are much more mature than the other one. So demographic, so I think it's better to go in bit detail about the demographic environments. Each and every chunk of the market is affected by universal demographic factors, age, educational lifestyles, and so on. The crucial variables include are how income variable influences the business. Very true, income level. If you are coming with some premium product, you need to think about which particular segment mostly has a more higher income level, and accordingly you can position your product and offerings. Age variables that affect the business. We have seen the aging population could be opportunity, but most of the time it seems like the younger population is important. I'm talking about the generation Y and generation Z. We'll talk about the different generation. Generation study is very, very important. Geographical reason variable like shifting of the region and education level. Okay. Demographic environment changing the age structure. So just I want you to have a small discussion on this one. The changing age structure. You could see here it started. This one is Australian segmentation of the consumer. It started with the builders, baby boomers, generation X. On the top, on the category it is mentioned: builders, baby boomers, generation X, generation Y, generation Z, and generation Alpha. I think generation Alpha is those who have born after 2006, right? So who were the baby boomers? I'm sure, and this concept is very important. Generation, understanding the different generation. So probably if you will go through other marketing or business or commerce courses, probably you will come across this concept again and again. So who are the baby boomers? The people who born during the World War II, in between somewhere in 1946 to 1964. So if talking about the Australia, they make up 25% of the Australian population. So in Australia, still you have 25% of the baby boomers, those who born in between 1946 to 64. Then came the generation X, are the people born between the 1965 to 76. So what came out in the research that these generation X people, they spend more money online each month than any other generation. It's important to understand, right? Because these are the main customer base, because they are purchasing more, they are spending more money online each month compared to other generation. Talking about the generation X. What about the millennials? Another term is generation Y. Are the children or the baby boomers? See, the generation Y are the children of baby boomers who born between 1977 to 2000. And they are the largest generation in Australia. So again, if any foreign firm is trying to enter into the Australian market, they need to decide whom they are targeting. Who are their main customer base? Is it the generation Z, baby boomers, or the generation X, or the recent one, the generation Alpha? So who are the largest generation in Australia? It says that millennials, or the generation Y, Gen Y, are the largest population in Australia. What about the generation Z? Those people who born after 2000. Yes, of course, I am the member of generation Y. I'm the millennials. But generation X, those who born after 2000, mostly I'm sure, like I'm assuming that most of you falls under the generation Z. So what behavior we have seen in the generation Z? They easily blend online and offline world. So they have the both expertise of buying online, purchasing online and offline. So they are combination, blend of both. That is the generation Z. And then more recent is after 2006 or 8 is the generation alpha. So it's difficult. It's very rare that you will come up with some of the product and services, especially catering to the Gen Alpha. Probably maybe the some health stuffs or maybe the napkins and all. Some, yeah, but mostly it is the kind of generation Y and generation Z, those who are the trendy in the Australia. So understanding the changing age structure is very, very important. So mass profit is possible while targeting the generation X because they are the most in numbers in Australia. And maybe the concept, overall concept of baby boomers, generation X, Y, Z remains same in whole world. Originally, these concepts came from the US economy, but later on you can have a similar sort of analysis. You can apply these models, these categories, keeping in mind of your own particular economy. Australia, India, or Russia, or maybe whatever like Japan, China, or Indonesia, wherever you are, you can apply and you can view in your particular economy what is the percentage of baby movers, what are the percentage of generation Z or generation Y, and accordingly think about targeting your segment. It's very interesting, right? You can explore more and more on this. It's very interesting concept. Another findings from one of the article, it says that the changing family, what it says that with regard to the family structure, there has been, it has been noticed in Australia that there has been a rise of single parent family, the rise of family with no children. You see, these are the like very unique circumstances. And as a marketer, if you, the moment you understand this form of changes, this you can target, you can customize and your product, and directly you can approach these unique customer. So the rise of the single parent family, rise of the family with no children, a decline in household size. That means nuclear family to now unique or uniform or single family, or increase in number of working women. So these are the certain trends in the Australia. So it's changing family and the household structure of one parent families, solo metro politics, post-mo couple, and vertical family. So see, these are the different segmentation. We understood, right? Segmentation, targeting, and positioning. STP is known as the essence of marketing. Is always the heart of marketing activities. So the moment you understood these different segments, it's very important. It's like the job is very easy, right? 40% of your homework is done. If you're targeting, you have decided to cater to right target segment, 40 or 50% of your homework has been done. So these are all the demographic factors. Increasing diversity, especially in Australia, what I say, it's multicultural, right? So the population in Australia, in both Australia and New Zealand, are much diverse. We know that. One estimate, even the diversity goes to the extent of nowadays we talk about the firm, they are targeting the gay and also the lesbian consumers. They went to that extent. And one estimate, the last point, it says that one estimate puts the Australian buying power of the lesbian and the gay and bisexual and transgender and intersex people are massive, around 20 billion per annum. Think about the massive, see the forecasting is 20, it's a big market. But how many players are there? How many firms they are actually catering with the product and services, keeping in the mind of this particular segment? Very, very few. That gives a kind of indication that it's a huge opportunity. So it is an open market. But you need to think about what carefully you need to cater your services, product and services, so that it suits their needs and demands. And geographical shift in the population. I think this one is from the Australian population map. You'll see that like which one are like overpopulated, like New South Wales and maybe the northern southern Australia, the overpopulated, and there are some other territories or the region which are having less population. So the government is trying to have more offerings, more attractive packages in order to move the certain population from one territory to another one. You could have a certain sort of advantage in terms of tax, some rebates, some other additional government supports. that's some sort of incentive so that people can move from one population to one region to another region. So you have this updated slide on the weekly material, so you can go through that and just explore this one. And also the better education, as I said, better educated, increased white collar, more professional people are available. So are you as a firm, are you targeting, if you're selling, suppose the laptop or some technical stuff and all, probably the professional segments you can target, the people who are working in the office, and the working professionals you can target and all right. So it's important to understand these aspects. Come back. So we are trying to understand the forces in the macro environment. And just now we have covered only the first factor, that is demographic. I think we went in much more detail in that because it includes various factors. But it's good that we have touched upon the different dimensions of the demographic in detail now. So the second factor is economic factor. Economic factor, again, what I said, these macro environment related factors, firms, they don't have the control. Changing the demographic, you can't do as a firm, right? But you need to observe, you need to have a kind of understanding how the demographics is changing, how the economic factors are changing. You don't have control on these factors, any of these factors, technology, how the industry is changing, how the political legal parties, like because of the political and legal position, the rules and regulations, guidelines, everything is changing. You don't have control over any of the factor over here. All these 6 factors you don't have. As humans, you as a firm, you don't have a control over these factors. But we have seen in the case of micro, all those 6 factors to some extent, you will be able to manage. But all these 6 factors, demographic, economic, natural, technology, you don't have any control. So it's better to analyze and sense, analyze, sense, and respond to according to this market, according to these environments. If the technological environment is changing in your economy, you can't be with the old traditional telephonic landline. You can't be in that business. Nowadays, everybody is like, most people are on the online and they are using the Wi-Fi and all. You can't sell the old traditional things, technology stuff. So if you need to keep an eye on that, how these things are changing. These factors are dynamic. Keep in mind, all 6 factors are dynamic. They keep on changing, and that is the role of as a marketeer. You need to, what I say, you need to sense and respond. You need to sense what is changing, how they are changing, at what is the speed they are changing, and then accordingly respond. Come up with the strategy of the firm. So let's move to the second one, economic factor. I think it's better to go through, okay, let's go through the economic factor now, since I said. So the economic environment consists of the factor that affect consumer purchasing power and spending pattern. Economic environment, what kind of, you see some of the factors like which yes, it's interest rate by the banks. Generally the national banks, they set the interest rate or the exchange rate. Recession, inflation. Recession is kind of economic crisis. We have seen in the case of Starbucks, right? What economic factor plays the role? We'll come up with these factors once again at the end. We'll try to relate with the stuff. But remember, it was a recession in 2008. Economic subprime crisis happened. It started in the US and globally, in all the world, they have noticed the kind of recession in 2008 and 9. And the Starbucks, they have closed two-thirds of their shops in Australia in that period of time. So that is the economic factor was also responsible for that. Inflation, you know the concept of inflation, sudden rise in the prices of the goods and services. It depends. There are the different factors which are responsible for the inflation. You need to understand the economic macroeconomy in detail, we have a concept of even a hyperinflation. Certain economy has seen in the past. I think Nigeria and some other economy, few examples are there. They have seen hyperinflation where the prices was almost doubling every day, almost doubling every day. Can you imagine? That was very like unique case of hyperinflation. Different taxes system, yes. What do you think? Almost if you study the taxes system across the world, yeah, it varies. It varies from country to country. In India, in Australia, you have a standard, I think, 22 to 24% of the flat rate at the beginning, the starting one. The starting slab is that one, and it goes up to 42%. But maybe in the certain economy, it goes up to 47%. If I could remember, the Switzerland and all Europe and some other country, they have the tax percentage up to 52%. So it because of these factors, your purchasing power and your income and net income, it varies. So shift in the consumer spending pattern. So if you have more and more income, you will be able to spend more and more, right? And but maybe yes, the change in the income, right? What do you think? The recent one, the coronavirus, we have seen the changing pattern in the. Do you think it's a kind of economic factor, economic environment, or something else? Think about that. Maybe we'll discuss at the last, because we have seen the shift in the consumer spending pattern. We noticing that people were there, started stocking in Australia in anticipation that there will be a lockdown for a long period of time. So even this happened across other economies as well. Right? So shift in the consumer spending pattern, they started stocking that, so they were buying more and more stuffs. There was this kind of sudden shift. Maybe it's for a small short-term period, but we have seen that in the recent time. But probably most of the economy now, they are struggling with. They kept lockdown for 1 month, 40 days, and all, and the people, the most of the cities and mass population, they are now suffering. They don't have the income and all. So again, there is a sudden gap in terms of like purchasing the product or consumption of the product and services. So you need to keep all these factors in mind while taking into the consideration of your marketing, formulating your strategy related to the marketing. So basically, the very environment of the economy can have an effect on two essential aspects: your company level of production and decision-making process of your customer. So accordingly, this one you will, if think about, if the exchange rate, if you have a foreign supplier, right, you need to pay the money to those foreign suppliers in the local currency, right? In their local currency, not in your own country currency, in their own local currency. So the exchange rate, it plays a very critical role. If exchange rate will be high, right, then you have to pay more your own currency. So all these factors are somehow related to or can influence your company production decision or the kind of manufacturing decision, right? And the taxes and all, we have seen that. And even this, like certain economy has a different tax rate for the business professional, for the business corporate houses. The different tax slabs are there for the individual who are earning, and different slabs are there for the business houses, corporate houses. Recession is like kind of global crisis. We have seen the example of 2008 and 9. We have seen the subprime crisis, and again we have seen another global crisis in 2013 and 14. That was a European crisis. That was another reason. It was European crisis we have seen in 13 or 14. So we have periodically we keep noticing that certain sort of recession happens happens around the world, like in the global economy. That is all these factors are responsible for the economic environment. But again, keep in mind, as a firm, do I have a control over all these factors? No, I don't have control. Who sets all these interest rate, exchange rate? It depends. Exchange rate depends on supply and demand of the particular currency, right? Interest rate and all, it's set by the government banks and all, right? Recession, no control. Inflation, lots of factors are responsible for the inflation, taxes and all. So you don't have, as a firm, you don't have a control on the economic environment. Okay. So we have covered the demographic, and just now we have covered the economic environment. Let's go through the third one. Okay, cultural and social environment. The cultural environment is made up of institutions and other forces that affect a society's basic values, perception, preferences, and behaviors. I think it's a very, very unique thing, understanding the different culture and social environment. It's a very, very unique thing, right? Certain economy has a, because of the cultural norms and social values, certain economy, they can't do certain businesses, right? Like, for example, beef product, you can't import or export in India because of the cultural norms. Similarly, the Gulf economy, there is a complete ban on pork product. But in Australia, there is no ban. Because why? Australia is a multicultural platform. People from the different culture and diverse ethnicities. Right? So understanding this is very, very important. It is crucial to understand that the product that you bring to the market can have a strong impact on society. It should be as per the societal norms and guidelines. For example, your production needs to eliminate every practices that is hazardous to the society and so that it is socially responsible. Nowadays, if you have noticed that most of the product in the coals, you will notice the kind of yellow banner in front of that meat product and all. They keep saying that it's a responsibly sourced responsibly. See, means the procurement or the sourcing has been done more keeping in mind of the ecological balance. There is no harm to the society, no harm to the environmental kind of thing. It's a very, very important factor nowadays. And there is a wide variety of the social and cultural factors. Some of them are purchasing habits, level of education. Certain factors are overlapping, that is okay. Religion and beliefs, health issues, social classes, structure and size of the family, growth rate of the population, immigration and the immigration rates. See how many people are outsiders. I think yes, even in Australia, it is like the report says that out of 3, 2 people has born abroad. So kind of how many people they came from outside and how many are the immigrants and all. Life expectancy rates are higher in the developed economy compared to the developing economy. Age distribution, different lifestyles. So again, these factors are very, very much challenging. Cultural diversity in Australia. Cultural diversity means how the people, society, they observe. What is your opinion? Their opinion about the nature, about the universe. It's all about the lifestyle, about opinion, thought, belief, values regarding the themselves, regarding any particular corporate house, regarding the nature, regarding the university, society, everything. How you people they view. So everything includes under the cultural or cultural diversity or the cultural social environment. So demographic, economic, and cultural, 3 factors we have seen, or we have understood. We'll talk about the natural environment, technological environment, and political environment. Okay, let's go through the, I think, natural and ecological we will talk about. Yeah, we'll cover everything. So let's go through the fourth factor. Okay. Technological environment. Very, very important nowadays. Very, very. We know that the way, the speed through which the technology is changing nowadays. We know that. Uh, I'm not sure about the, is it a Pareto principle or there is some principle which says that at the, at the interval of something 4 or 5 years, the speed of the technology is getting doubled and the prices is getting half. Some principle is there. So that gives you the kind of indication the role technology is playing. The technology has the importance, right? So the technological environment. The technological environment includes the forces that create new technologies that create new product and market opportunities. Yes, you're right, and I think it's okay. We'll talk about the new trends in the technology, 10 trends later on. So these factors are related to the skills and the ability that are implemented into the production as well as the material and technology that a particular product requires to be made. So technology is involved everywhere, right? In your production, think about nowadays, you have advanced just-in-time technology, Six Sigma technology to improve the quality. You have a concept of total quality management, TQM, that Japanese Toyota concept. So lots of technology, and again nowadays in order to manage all the business function inside one particular firm, you have a technology like ERP, enterprise resource planning software and services. I suggested you to go through the like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft. They are very good company providing the robust kind of technological solution. Technology is changing the way the businesses are working nowadays. So yes, they are essential and can have a big impact on how well your business is running. It boils down to even a small thing like maintenance trolleys you use in order to preserve your tools and equipments for as long as you possibly can. So technology is very, very important, playing a very critical role. Some of the most common technological factors are automation, 3D technology. Internet connectivity is quite common nowadays, but not across every economy in the world. Speed and the power of computer calculation, very, very important. You know, the computer brain is now giving a more accurate information or answer compared to the human brain. And we have seen, I could remember, yeah, Microsoft or maybe some other firms, they are trying to make a replica of the human brain or the kind of computer brain which can have more accuracy than the brain. And engine performance and efficiencies are increasing day by day because of the technology advance. And the company like Tesla, the most innovative firm in the world, right? Tesla. So they are trying to, day by day, they are trying to improve the efficiency of the automobile. And security is also important in terms of cryptology, coding and decoding, and that is very important. And wireless charging, see here, see the massive role of this technology. And technology environment is again very, very dynamic. Each interval of 3 to 4 years, the standard is the speed of the technology is doubled, prices are half. See, it's very, very, and you need to think about, if you're thinking about your businesses and all, are you close to this technology? Are you adopted? Did you sense the importance of this technology environment or not? Are you able to use the automation in your supply chain? Are you able to use the 3D technology in your supply chain or in your distribution or in the communication channel or not? If not, probably not you, maybe your competitors may do well in that particular market. So you need to be very close. You need to, I know it's like putting an initial investment will be high, right? Some of the technology, it's very, very costly. Think about ERP and all, it comes in millions. So several millions package you have to invest at front in terms of adopting those. And not only the one-time purchases, it's a continuous ongoing training to the employees as well is very, very important. Buying simply the technology is not enough. Your employee has to work, right? He has to operate it on the day-to-day basis, 24 into 7 hours, right? So it's very, very important to sense those technology, which is not every technology is in every sector, right? You need to first analyze which particular segment or which particular industry or sector you are in, and what are the technology are more prevailing, more promising in that particular sector, and then you try to match, try to adopt certain some level of technology in your organization, so that you try to be yourself up to date. So that is very, very important, the technological environment. uh, it's a very interesting topic. It's article on by the I think it's from Deloitte, and one is from another friend. Yeah, Gartner. You know these Gartner, Deloitte, and Forbes. These are like more like the best like marketing research company in the world. So they have come up with in 2020. They have Gartner. They have come up with 7 biggest technology trend in the current scenario. You have a yes in 2020 top 10 strategic technology trend for 2020. Just have a look on this and see how important, like where we are moving where in terms of technology. It's a people centric hyper automation. It's not automation now, they are talking about the hyper automation, multi experiences, democratization, human augmentation. Yes, the virtual realities and all, human augmentation, transparency and traceability of each and individual, right? Very, very important. Smart spaces where we have empowered edge, distributed clouds. Cloud is very, very important nowadays. You don't have to buy and keep the big storage system in your firm. Just buy, take the cloud space, digital space from some of the third party agency and just work. You don't have to have initial heavy amount of investment, because of this. These technologies are kind of blessings nowadays for farmers, for the businesses. Autonomous things, practical blockchain. I think this is very important in supply chain context, and artificial security, artificial AI security. So these are the top 10 trends in the technology. Very, very important to understand these environments. You want it to be updated. You want it to be on the top. If you wanted to have like good performance in the market and in the marketplace, you need to be keep yourself updated on this technology environment. See, I'm not covering any of the aspects from the global. So I I taught previously the global marketing management. This your class is on marketing, basic marketing management. So there is like less touch. I'm not trying to give you the inputs from like how the firms they are operating internationally, globally, multi-domestically. Or I'm not talking about those things. But these factors I taught there itself. So we added more and more input from the global perspective, how the different firms, the technology transfer across the firm, across the industry, across the subsidiary. If you as a firm, you have the 10 branches across different country in the world, what technology transfer is going to take place and all. There are very, very important aspects are related to all these 6 domains. It's not only technological, legal, political, different political systems are there around the world. So these things are very, very important to understand. If you are doing business not only in your country, and you're thinking to have your business across the world. So these factors are very, very important to, yes, its classes is going on. In 10 minutes, so I will be out in 10 minutes. Okay, I will take the, okay, okay, so thank you. I'm at the university now, and so somebody has to go ahead with this one. So maybe I will quickly go to the other location, and then we will continue with another hour where we will discuss about the stuff related to the individual project and the group assignment. So technology environment is very important. Let's go through this natural environment, what it says. Again, the natural environment involves the natural resources that are needed as input by marketers and that are affected by the marketing activities. It's very important to have, to keep the ecological balance, right? You should not demolish, you should not destroy the natural environment of particular reason. We have seen there are some cases where the big multinationals, they harm the particular reason in a great way. That is not good. If you are a MNC, you are entering to the foreign market or foreign location, and you are, after certain years, you are you're destroying the local balance, ecological balance. It's not good. So natural environment is very important. Again, every business must take into the account the very planet and its resources. We know the natural resources are very, very limited. So the natural and physical forces can be climate change, pollution, weather, ability of the both renewable energy and non-renewable resources, and the survival of biological spaces. You think about the country like New Zealand. So they are very good in terms of preserving the natural environment. And they have the very strict guidelines for multinationals who are entering from outside, trying to do the business in New Zealand. They have very strict guidelines. Even Australia, they are very, very strict, and they can't compromise on the natural environment or environmental issues. They are very, very strict. The political, the law and rules, regulations are very, very strict. So the natural environment is again very important. And then you have, I think, yeah, the last one is political and legal environment. So the market develops according to the political and legal environment in various areas. This means that every business needs to be up to date in those. What factors are included in the political and legal environment? Broadly, the political or legal environments are related to the government, because they are the person, they are the people, actors who decide on the legal issues and all. So go through some of the factors like copyright rules, copyright laws. You know, the intellectual property rights. Did you hear that? IPRs, intellectual property rights. We have patent, copyrights, trade market, trade secrets, trade marks, and these are the different intellectual properties. So the copyrights law, which protects your novelty. So the government, they make these laws: employment law, fraud, discrimination, health and safety law, antitrust law. You can't make a monopoly in the market, right? You can't make you can't collude, or you can't make alliances in order to set the certain prices and all. That is really not, that is anti trust kind of anti marketing law stuff. Okay. So you need to, the moment you enter in the international market or even the local market or the national market, you need to comply with all those political and legal rules, regulations, guidelines in a proper manner. So responding to the marketing environment. So why we are understanding all this macro environment and micro environment? It's because we need to respond to this environment. That is, as a marketeer, it's our responsibility to respond to these market, micro and macro environment. So rather than simply reacting, companies should take proactive steps with respect to marketing environment, seeking opportunity for growth and adapting to the changes. So go back to that, what we said. We said about the SWOT analysis, SWOT. Strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. So what I said is strength and weaknesses can be used, or you will be able to identify the strength and weaknesses of the firm using the micro level of environmental analysis, MICRO. Whereas the macro level, just now we have covered, the macro level factors will help you to understand what opportunities you have and what threat you have. So probably we'll cover this on the Ford Ranger product line, and we'll try to see the micro environmental trends, maybe in the next class, in the tutorial, we'll try to see from this one. And this one is important from your group assignment as well. I'll talk about that. So let's go and have a quick recap. Okay. Started with the marketing environment, two broad components, internal and external. Internal, we understood using the 5 M's, main, money, machinery, material, and markets, whereas the external, we have two types, micro and macro. In micro, we have seen 6 factors: companies, suppliers, intermediaries, competitors, publics, and competitors. We have gone through each and every one in greater detail. And then we moved in the second half, we have discussed about the forces, another 6 forces in the macro environment, the broader or external environment. So what are those? We covered demographic in great detail, economic we understood, the natural importance is, we can't ignore the importance of the natural environment. We should strive, the company should try to make a balance of the ecology. Technological, very, very important role nowadays they're playing. So technological we have seen. Political, legal is very, very important again, because you need to comply with the rules and regulation in that particular economy. You can't avoid that, you can't go. And cultural and social and cultural, we have seen the importance of that. So probably what we can do is, since I came to know that this room has been blocked, like for the another 1 hour session by somebody else. So I will search for one place, and then I will continue with the another 1 hour. We'll have a discussion on the group assignment now. So, and meantime, I will take some of. Do you have any questions here? So another 2-3 minutes, then we'll go for 5 minutes break, and then we'll continue at this another place. Do you have any question, or everything is all clear? Could you please respond now?
All clear, sir.
Let me ask Jara, are you there? Jara. Jara, are you there?
Zara is here and I don't have any
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, please ask.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, okay, all good. Happy to hear that. And what about Sahid, are you there? Sahid. Anas Sahid, right? Enoch, I didn't hear from you since long. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
But you are not asking anything. All things, everything is clear?
Yeah, it seems I am understanding everything properly.
That sounds good, but you should ask some of the, you should have a kind of, try to have a kind of participation in the discussion. That will be good for me. And Sahid is not there. I'm not able to hear anything from Sahid. Are you there? Anas Sahid, are you there? Okay, I'm assuming that you have given your mark, like you put your attendance in the chat box. I'm saving now it. So I hope you have done this. And then we have another 1 hour. So just go for 5 minutes break. Then I will continue with the another 1 hour of session. We'll have a discussion on the group assignment and individual assignment both. All clear? Okay, thank you so much. So just go for some break and then we'll continue once again. I'm ending this lecture. Then after 5 minutes, 7 minutes, we'll continue again.